My name is Henry Zumbrun, and I'm quite honored to be joined by Walter Nowocin with IndySoft. Walter was on the Metrology Today podcast with Ryan Egbert and myself. If you want to learn Walter's amazing history and some things about software validation, which everybody always needs, right,
Yeah,
Walter?
right.
or,
The bugaboo.
or yeah, or if you want to learn more, you can take one of Walter's courses. Walter's been giving courses and training for years. How long now, Walter?
Shoot, probably 20 years at least.
Yeah. And you and I share the NCSLI Training and Education Award. So you have,
Yeah, I was so
yeah, yeah.
honored to be right behind you the year
I,
after. So that was
you
pretty
should have been
cool.
ahead of me. So
No
with
way.
all the work, oh yeah, without a doubt. But yeah, so it's cool that we share that in common and that we both have a chance to talk about a passion topic, which is leadership.
Yeah,
So that being said, Walter, just a little bit IndySoft, a little history, and we'll get on with leadership.
perfect. Yeah, I started in my career with the United States Marine Corps, did 22 years, anywhere from a technician supporting jets to running a night crew to signing jets off safe for fly for the commanding officer, being an instructor at the PML school, running Cal Labs for the Marine Corps for my last 4 years. And then after leaving the Marine Corps, I was fortunate enough to join Medtronic, a medical device manufacturer, global medical device manufacturer, running their largest Cal Lab in Minneapolis. And I did that for 21 years. So those two career paths give me the foundation and passion for both training, which we share for sure, and then the leadership, intertwining leadership into that. And then taking early retirement from Medtronic, I had the good fortune to sign up with IndySoft and continue my career, my passions on leadership and training, and helping them do the lab manager course that they have in Charleston. Somehow or another, you've gone silent. I can't hear you or mute or.
Yeah, with NCSLI, you just gave a recent course on leadership.
I did. That was a condensed. I do a 2 day workshop in Charleston on leadership lab man how to run a
Hmm.
lab, and then I condensed that down to 1 day for a 1 day tutorial in Cleveland, and that went pretty good. I have to condense 2 days into one, and I was off by 10 minutes, so that wasn't
Oh,
too
that's
bad.
good. That's always good with when you present, people do not realize that it is, especially with NCSLI and everybody else, this is volunteer. It's a volunteer
Yes,
organization, and many of us do it out of passion for the topic
that's
because
right.
we're not, how many people do you have in your class?
I didn't have very many. I had six that signed
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
But it was the first time doing it, so hopefully word of mouth it'll grow. But
And that happens. I had five in one, and then Greg Senker and I, another, one of your colleagues and a good friend, him and I had, I think, nine in the second class. So
yeah,
it's not bad numbers, five or six. It's people that, when you have these classes, sometimes the smaller classes, you can make a bigger difference, and it's tough in general, right?
yeah,
You're there, you never, as an instructor, you never know what to expect. My dream, Walter, is always to go in there and never have to touch a slideshow. That it's never happened, but that people are
I
there and
gotcha.
just that engaged, and I can just
Yeah,
wing. What do you want to know? I can go. I need a chart. I do need some tools, so I need something to draw on, but that I can draw on something and just say, okay, let's dissect this. Let's go at it. Let's see what
right.
problems you're having, and let's see what our experience, like you and I both have numerous years of experience, what we can do and how we can help. Because it's one of those things that if you're not gonna. How do you say this? And I think in your leadership training and lab manager training, you're not going to really shortcut things, but if you can
Mm,
um, give people those foundational requirements not to repeat the same mistakes,
right.
you've you can get them further faster. And
That's right.
leadership, one of the things that I have here, that a book I recommend, Speed of Trust. It's by Stephen
Stephen Covey.
Stephen M.R. Covey, which is the son of Stephen Covey. So let's not
Oh,
confuse
okay.
the.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
the kid wrote a book. Dad wrote the book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective Leaders. Good book.
Right.
John Maxwell and Stephen Covey, and a lot of them did a lot of work for the long time. And then the son writes the book, and he talks about his parents a lot in this book. And the son in the book, if you was the kid responsible, I think 7 or 8 for the keeping the yard lean and green.
Yeah.
So from the kid's point of view, he talks about, what his dad meant and how his dad said he would help and everything. But someone recommended it to me, and I was like, yeah, it's not nearly as popular as the other one, but the big word in here to talk to you about is trust.
Sure.
So, if you don't have that, if you're a first-time leader, you could have a lot of bad habits and other things going
Mhm.
on with yourself. But if you can establish trust with your team,
Yeah.
right? From your early days in the service, it's all
Yeah.
built, everything's built around trust.
It is. What I try to mentor young leaders is, hey, roll up your sleeves and get with the work team, the ones that actually perform the work, and help them out and show that you're there to support them physically, not
Right.
just in talk and in meetings, but hey, roll up the sleeves and help them move equipment around or whatever. That's kind of what I share with my young leaders.
Well, then they learn what they're doing. They learn what somebody else is doing. If you spend a
Yeah,
day in somebody else's job, you should be doing this a lot.
that's
There's
right.
this is the debate on how much time should you be spending. And I think there's a
Sure.
lot of different debate throughout everybody, but if you're going to be a lab manager, you should potentially be calibrating as well. Not all the time,
Yeah.
right? There's other things in the lab you're going to need to maintain, but to
Right.
to go and just do a cow once a week, be with a technician for an hour as
Right.
they perform the cow, or learn and say, oh, what are you doing here? What are you doing there? You don't have to know everything. A lot of the times that we're dealing with, and we've talked a hair, and I said, let's just jump into the podcast. You're dealing with companies acquiring other companies all the time. You're dealing with a hiring scenario where there's not as many people as there are jobs sometimes, depending on which way the economy's going, and what area you're in, as well. So, I mean, 2, 3 years ago, we were in a position where there was, I believe the statistics were like point 0.8 applicants, qualified applicants, not just qualified applicants for every
Yeah.
job that was open.
Yeah.
So what does that leave for companies? You kind of have to hire maybe the best and the brightest, or those people that have that natural ability or ability to learn, right? Because you're just not going to pluck a seasoned metrologist or seasoned our field or seasoned
No.
leaders out. They're not there.
Yeah. You have to build almost an apprenticeship type of program internally to supplement the gap.
Right. And I think we do that well on our side, on the force side. Machinists
Okay.
are another one. Machinists need that.
Yeah.
And we're trying to build it up. That's a skill set that's dying. There's a lot of talk on onshoring manufacturing and doing that. And if you're going to do that, we're going to have some automation, but you're going to need good leaders, and people that have the ability to learn, to set up training programs, because you spend a lot of money on hiring and unfortunately firing people, because if you hire the wrong person, it costs your company a fortune to train,
Yeah.
develop, and do everything else. So, and a lot, it's the stats are still the same, that 70% of people leave their work or organization because of bad management.
That's true.
So that's where it comes to your class. So what else can we discuss here, Walter, about leadership? What have you learned over the years that you want to impart to the audience that's listening?
Yeah, that's a perfect segue. The lab manager workshop, the idea came from attending one of those myself as I was in my early years at Medtronic. Um, who at Fluke? Jesse and Fluke was doing the 1 day, 2 day tutorial on lab management, and I took his class. And then there was Dean Williams in Duke Energy, who did a similar sort of class, but probably more metric intensive than what Jesse was doing. And between the two of them, it was fabulous training for a young lab manager or mid manager. But those went away 10, 15 years ago, and there hasn't been anything to replace that for young leaders. And so that's what I thought I'd share that with Rhett, the CEO of Indiesoft, when I first joined him. I said, Rhett, you've got a gold mine here in Charleston. One, you got location, location, location.
Right.
Everybody would love to come to Charleston for training. So that's easy. I said, two, you got a world-class training facility that's underutilized. Let's try to fill it. And then third, I said, Rhett, you've got two subject matter experts known nationally, myself in life sciences and computer software validation, and then Greg Sinker with uncertainty uh, um, management. I said, between the two of us, we can put together a week-long lab manager workshop that would be highly sought after and fill in the gap that was left by Fluke and Duke Energy.
Right. Yeah, Greg knows a thing or two about uncertainty, doesn't he?
Just a little bit, just a little bit. I remember we've been doing this 4 years now, and I sit in on his class, and I'm just mesmerized by what he presents. Well, one time he was really sick and he couldn't make it, and so we were debating internally what to do, whether to cancel it or I could sit in and try to do it, and Greg walked me through that, and he called in, and we were able to successfully do a condensed version of his talk.
Oh,
But
that's
yeah,
great.
it's fabulous. Um, on leadership, oh, the other exciting thing is I'm going to be doing a monthly newsletter on LinkedIn starting in January called Leadership Gold. And the idea with that newsletter is to share a leadership tidbit every month. And the GOLD is an acronym that I created around my lab manager leadership course on the four fundamentals of running a lab and really running any organization actually. And that GOLD acronym stands for great planning, uh, organizing, leadership, and then damn good metrics. And so that is the foundation for the course, and those four elements you learn those when you get your bachelor's degree typically
Mhm.
because the academics revolve around those four pillars on how to run a organization around planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. And so I brought in those academic elements in addition to sharing my experiences to combine on that 2 day workshop.
So the L is leadership, not luck.
Well, you could probably add that on there.
Sometimes you get a little bit of luck, right?
Yep, yep. You got to take it whenever you get it.
But if you're doing more of the planning and you're well organized and you have the metrics, that luck, yeah,
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 you get it a
strength.
lot more than when you don't get it. So
And
one of
that's
my
kind of
yeah,
what I
yeah.
share with the young leaders is I'm all about getting this large bullseye that's a little fuzzy and getting it shrunk down as tight as possible and as
Yep.
clear as possible. And that comes from those four elements.
You're never going to reach perfection. And
No,
if people are chasing perfection, they're chasing the wrong thing.
yeah, I
So,
like Stephen Covey's last principle in his Seven Principles book, which is hone to solve.
yeah,
And the
right.
concept there is you're constantly making tweaks of improvement every time. I told my people at Medtronic, uh, I want every touch point to be improved. When you're touching something, that's the time to improve it. Don't set it aside for later. That never happens. Touch
No,
point improvement.
no, because I don't think anybody that's out, well, there's probably some statistically, I got to be careful what I say, but the majority of people in the 95% of the normal curve do not have time to twiddle their thumbs when they're in a lab environment.
Right, that's correct. Yeah, you're moving.
You're moving.
But
So,
but the point is, what I want to hone into people is the idea about honing to solve. Every time you come across a situation, that's the time to put time aside to improve it because it'll only get bigger and bigger of a problem the more you delay it, and you might even forget about it until it bites you.
it's such a good topic because what do people tend to do as managers? Some managers, not all, right? They tend to fix problems. And they're not really fixing problems. When I say fix, I mean mask problems. So what you're, yeah, put it aside. I can put it aside and work on something that will give the organization a permanent fix, or a more permanent fix, or just make us better, or I can put some masking tape on it and let it limp along for a couple, another month or two until it comes back around.
Yeah, right. That's for sure.
But that happens, and it's the putting out fires. And people say they're constantly, all they do is put out fires. And when you're firefighting all the time, your world's chaotic.
That's right. I was trying to look for the article title that I use in my class. It's about the 12 points of a great boss, and it's so unique of a article. And one of the things is that managers need to do the mundane things well. It's not the big projects that managers should be focusing their attention on. It's the everyday little things that if you do those well, they turn into big successes.
They're little. It's James Clear, Atomic Habits, which basically says if you can get 1% better per day, well, 1% per day is a lot, honestly, but if
Yeah,
you can, it's in 37 days, you're twice as good. Though if you say, okay, let's get 1% better per week or month or whatever, it's still right. Even per week, 37 weeks in less than a year, you're twice as good.
yeah,
And that's a huge thing. It's hard being a leader. There's a lot of things that are difficult for people. Empowering others is one of the is probably on that 12, and that's hard to do too, because if I can do it myself, it's so much,
yeah,
right? It's so much
yeah.
easy. I can just do it. It'll take me
That's
30
exactly right.
minutes versus
One
2
of
hours.
one of the things I talk about in the leadership class is the art of delegation. That is tough for most type A leaders to do well in. So I share the articles and tidbits about the art of delegation. Uh, yeah, because it's an important thing to do, and you don't get information about how to do it, and so you're kind of thrown into the fire about it until the next thing you know, you're taking on everybody's work and you're not getting anything done on your own.
One of the things I wanted to, so what's some good traits of leadership that maybe we don't hear too often? Like one of them, and I'll give you an example. One of them would be, I would think, a really good leader in an organization. They go away for a week, they're coming back to very little workload,
Yeah,
right? I don't think people think about this in the extent that we talk about it, right? I've been in organization for, we're 26 some years, and I can tell you that there are times where if you weren't working constantly when you're on vacation, you're coming back to like the hugest stack that you
sure.
could ever believe. But if you're truly a good leader, I would say you're not going to come back to no work, but you're probably coming back where things should hum along rather well without you. You're needed.
Yeah,
Don't think the organization doesn't need you and this and out. But it gets down to the ability of really great leaders they have an ability to be able to work themselves almost out of a job or work themselves out of
sure.
being needed for an extended period of time. Not forever.
Yeah, so on that point, one of the things I think is important for a lab manager of say 20 people and larger is to make sure you have first of all, that you have a staff that you identify and that you meet with them regularly. And the staff is what you build the core around the department. And by having regular meetings, I had actually weekly meetings every Tuesday morning, an hour and a half I spent with my 7 staff members where they would share what they were doing. I'd share what I was doing, and then what was the important things that week that we needed to focus on. But
Hmm.
the other thing about that, by meeting regularly with that staff, is you start sharing with them your philosophy of life or
Yeah.
philosophy of work, and you all get on board with understanding which direction we're going. And then when I leave for any period of time, I identify the next person up And I say, you run the staff meetings, continue to do that, and you guys make decisions as they come up as a staff, and you don't have to call me. I
Right.
fully support what you guys are doing, and because we have been doing this for years together, and so we all kind of work in the same direction, right?
Yep.
So I think building a good staff is critical to running a department
Oh,
and meeting regularly and sharing thoughts and why we're making a certain decision, what's the background behind it, and then everyone understands that. And then, boy, I never worried when I went on an extended vacation or if I was out sick for a certain period of time that things would still continue to run fairly well because of that.
right. And that is just such a go. I mean, some people have that and some people do not. And you said a couple key points here, explaining the why, and that meeting's an alignment meeting.
That's
Regardless of
exactly
what
right.
we,
That's
you
right.
can, and there's different ways around it. EOS traction, there's says Gino Wickman wrote the book. They call it level 10 meeting, 90-minute meeting. You're
Yeah.
solving issues, you're doing other things. There's other people do fine with standing meetings, 10-minute standing meetings. There's not a
Right.
one size fits
No.
all for any of this. But what you're saying, Walter, I fully do agree with. I'm biased because I've read all of Gino Wickman's books. I'm biased on the 90-minute level 10
Hmm.
meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
Really is getting for the department is getting everybody in sync in there, looking at your issues, discussing
Right.
things before they happen, getting
That's
game
right.
plans together, organized, and processing and solving things together. Because if you're the only one that everybody's when I took over as president of Morehouse, now I'm CEO of Morehouse, but when I took over as there was a line behind my door every day,
Mm.
and you've probably seen this at different
Yeah.
companies,
That's
right?
right.
It's just like a train line. It's like this is ridiculous. No one's
Yeah.
solving their own problems,
Right.
right? They're all coming to make sure it's what am I supposed to do? What am I going to do? What would you do here? What this and that? And eventually we were able to get them to the point where they would come with suggestions and then kind of mold them into where we were going to be. But even that, that's one step I think you can do if your people are constantly coming to you, what should I do? What should I do? One
Yeah.
of the things is you can set the tone to say, hey, instead of come to me with suggestions. Ideally, you want to empower them to make their own decisions and have the meetings in alignment. But yeah, invest in it's that trust, creating the psychological safety too that your team members. I'm sure you had that, right? That they can say whatever.
Yeah. That's kind of the idea of it is in those meetings is to hey, how do we solve this? How do we get here? How do we get out of it? And hear everyone's viewpoint. One of the things I share as part of the 2-day class is how to run a meeting and the idea that especially young women who get into leadership is that hey, if you're invited to a meeting, you're invited to a meeting because you're a subject matter expert and people value your opinion and want to hear your opinion.
Mhm.
So don't sit in back of the room and don't say anything for the length of the meeting. Get engaged and share your voice because that's why you were invited.
There's some people that are just shy,
Sure.
right? And creating that open environment, and sometimes you just get them to start talking, right? You've
Yeah,
known, and
that's the
especially
idea.
in our field, there's people that are you just can't pull anything out of them. And there's some people that are part of many teams that are neurodiverse that just aren't comfortable with speaking up or speaking out. But they're
Yeah, and that's
sitting there
why
and they know. Yeah.
yeah, that's why it's important for the leader of the meeting to do prep work before the meeting for everyone to share what is the goal of the meeting and what is the expectation to bring to the meeting, and then to engage everyone, especially the quiet members, at certain points of the meeting and say, "Hey, what, Jessica, what do you think of what we're talking about?" Uh, and kind of bring that out.
Right. And we have to do that when we train too. That's another thing when you're in front of people for a day. If you're not, sometimes you have to almost volunteer a couple people to to speak up and be active. But you know what's interesting, I find, is once you do that, say your scenario with Jessica, once you do it a few times, that
Yeah,
person becomes more right, just human
that's
nature,
right.
they become more comfortable speaking out. I've
Yeah,
heard stories, and I think probably everybody's been part of them, where people have spoken out and the leader like chastised them for a dumb comment.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
What is that is the
Mm-mm.
worst thing. That is like the biggest no-no that you could ever
Right.
do, ever. Right?
Hmm.
If somebody says something stupid, to put it in front of everybody and critique them for saying something stupid in front of the whole group.
Yeah, that's not good. Say, I want to circle back on
Yeah.
you were talking about a line out your door, and I was trying to remember the article that I use in my class, and it's called Management Time. Who's got the monkey? And
Yep.
the idea is the monkey is the task that the employee has, but when they come into your office and ask you to help them with it, you take that monkey on your shoulders.
That's right.
And the article, the idea of the article, the visual is pretty cool. The idea is that all of a sudden, a couple days later, that employee comes back into your office and says, "Henry, how's that going? Did you find anything useful there?" And that's supervision.
It is.
They're supervising you now on the task that they owned.
Yep. Or yeah. There's the positive is they're reminding you that you need to do it, but the negative is Ken Blanchard wrote the book 1 Minute Manager. I think there's one called 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey, where he talks about someone that takes on the manager takes on all the work, and all of a
Right.
sudden their team members are out on the golf course, because I know you
That's
like
correct.
golfing, and they're there working all day long. And
That's
there's
right.
movies that are fun. I forget some of them. Office Space. There's some
Yeah.
funny movies in general where they put all the work. I think Horrible Bosses was the one that I'm thinking of, where
Mm.
the
Oh,
Kevin
sure.
Spacey's character puts all the work on. I think Jason Bateman, like
Yeah. Yeah.
his grandma dies and he's chastising you. Well, poor Nana, you're gonna get this work done. You're working all night.
Yep. But we think we're helping, right? Because we're managers, we're supposed to help our employees solve problems, but that's not the way to do it.
Nope.
You tell them to set up a meeting or whatever, and they should be coming with the meeting with what do they think is the issue and how do they think it should be best resolved, and then you kind of help them migrate through that. But you don't take the task on to say you're going to research the information. You have now become the subordinate
That's true.
to their supervision.
And to add a little bit more, if you're the manager, you should be in a habit of praising. If you want people to better behave better, to do things, we as humans just love recognition and praise. So the story is what? Catch somebody doing something right. You want them to
Right.
behave in the way you want them to behave. When they do something right, go praise them up and down, right? When they do
Yeah.
something wrong, have a direct conversation with it immediately and sort it out together. There's all this stuff that people don't
That's an
do.
that's another important aspect of leadership is to recognize, praise, promote your
Mhm.
employees, and we spend quite a bit of time on that. Uh, to even in the metrics portion of the class, where I share with them the idea that you should have a metric around recognition. How
Yeah.
often are you recognizing and put a stake in the ground and say whatever number that is per month or quarter
Hmm.
or year, because that's going to help you be successful in that regard because we just tend not to under deliver in that important aspect.
Yeah, and it should become more habit. I mean, the only thing I would say, the metrics good right now,
Yeah.
though, if a good manager is going to have the habit of doing it all the time,
Yeah.
right? And they're also going to have that habit of never attacking the person. If somebody does something wrong, it's because they didn't adhere to a core value. They didn't promote a positive customer experience. They didn't follow procedure or whatever. It's not because they're dumb or lazy, or there's things that people I've seen over the years that have just made me a lack of a better word, my jaw was dropped on things that I've heard people say to other people and this and that. It's not. Jim Collins says it, I think, the best. Right people, right seats. I mean, there are situations that maybe you didn't put the right person in the right seat, and you need to find a
Right.
better seat for her. Maybe you didn't hire her, and it's not the right fit. Um, but yeah, if that's the case, I mean, this is where, do you talk about performance improvement plans or at all?
Yeah.
And this is one that I have not, this personally, I have not come to terms with. I have friends, other business leaders that say about 95% of their people, when they're put on a performance improvement plan, turn it around. I,
Really?
yeah,
I have not observed that.
yeah, see, this is the one. Yeah, you're probably in my line of the same line where maybe if you're doing really well, it's 50, 60%, maybe a little higher than that. But is that a fact? When we're talking about this and analyzing it, if the performance improvement plan is that last minute, is this a fact of just managers not doing things soon enough and that things are lagging till you get to the point of having to use a performance improvement plan?
Well, my experience in the 21 years that we used it in Medtronic is this a last ditch effort to try to turn the person around to save them
Right.
or for them to save themselves. So you've done many things before that point,
Correct.
right? There during annual reviews and goal setting and all that sort of stuff. The performance improvement plan is the last step. And what I have observed, because that's the way we did it, is that probably 90% of the people fail.
Yeah.
And the saying I kind of use, which maybe is kind of harsh, is that zebras don't change their stripes.
No,
Eh,
that's more than fair, but my comment is like because we use it because as a society we're in a habit, or many people are in a habit of this is the last. Sometimes it's HR documentation, right? You
That's
have
right.
warnings, you have systems, and then you do a 90-day PIP or you do a 30-day PIP or whatever you
Sure.
do. But is this a fact that we're just not aligning people sooner than later? Because I've witnessed this a lot of times where it seems like everybody knows the person's not a good fit and they're just waiting. They're waiting for them to do something until it becomes such a, boat anchor or drags them down so far that that's their final checkbox to get somebody out. And what I want to say, it's just difficult. I'm trying to calibrate this in my mind that the people that have success at the 90 to 95% rate, they're doing it when I talk to them, they're doing it pretty soon. And like you and I are the same way. We're fundamentally exposed to it's at the end instead of closer to the beginning. And it's just a question. That's
Yeah,
all.
but we're doing things early on
Right.
to help the person manage. It's not like we waited to the last minute and all of a sudden we're walking them out the door,
No, no, I
right?
no, I got I
It's
no, I
it's a
fully got
phased
that.
approach, and that's hence the reason why we see less success out of that
Yeah.
because at the end of the line, people just don't fundamentally change enough at that point. And let's face it, I had 40 people for 20 years, might have done 10 pips, maybe. It wasn't that you do it. This
No.
is not a discussion where you're doing it often and frequently. It's an infrequent experience. And unfortunately, I think it's a needed avenue because at some point, um, things are just not going to work out.
Yeah.
And you can't let it fester the workforce, as they say. One bad apple, can damage the whole morale.
It
So
can. And
we
and
as
the
managers
mindsets.
have to make the tough decisions sometimes.
It is. And sometimes you have people with the wrong mindset. You've hired them because they've been an expert
That's right.
in the field. And then, but their mindset is such that it's I,
That's
not team
correct.
oriented. And
That's exactly right. That's one of the
yeah,
best examples I've had. Is one of the most critical things that we did was sterilization for the medical device company. And we had one subject matter expert in sterilization, and we asked that person to train others and just would not do it because they knew they were in a power position.
which is wrong.
So, right?
Y- And you hear that all the time. You hear the best person for the job. "Well, I don't want to train people, then they'll take my job." It's like,
Right.
no. Why don't you
No,
just become the trainer? Then we'll grow
exactly.
beyond any imaginable belief, and you can be promoted and promoted to like the lead and be responsible for training for the whole facility in your particular discipline. If you know, but yeah, yeah, there's so many things from both sides, being a manager and being a team member. We both probably walk both of those lines, and they're not. when you're a team member and you know better than management, that's another piece that maybe the managers aren't doing their full job. If I want to reflect on some things that I've observed over my lifespan, right? It's like you go in, and it's if you're thinking you know better, that means the organization's probably not giving you the why.
Hmm.
Right? And I didn't know that early in my development and stuff. I didn't recognize that. I wouldn't have known it. You're 20 something out of school, going into an organization. They're like, do this, do that. And if you're like, well, this is fucking stupid, right? And why are you saying it's stupid? You're saying it's stupid because you don't understand the why. Or they
Yeah.
give you some load of crap that it's like, well, why do we do? Well, it's the way we've always done it. Well, why?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to me to talk back to having a strong staff. Is if you have a staff, then you're not the one independently making that type of decision
Nope.
of your staff agrees with the direction we're going with an individual, and so then you have that correlation to say, oh, it's just not my bias. Um, I have I have good group think in that we're all thinking the same thing about evaluation of this key person and how we're trying to resolve it.
Right. Yeah, it's all about outcomes, right? The goal of business, in any business, and people say profit, but it's really the goal is just to stay in business. It's Simon Sinek. It's a long game. You want to keep playing the game.
So one of the things I share in class is about the idea of performance reviews and improvement programs, all that sort of stuff is it used to be the mantra that you focus on the areas of improvement in these discussions. Well, I've come across academic literature and studies that show that no, what you should be doing is focusing on the strengths
Right.
because that's where you're going to get the most bang for the buck because they it's the strengths because they have a passion around it, they like doing it, and they're doing it well. And boy, if we can just tweak that to be more uh, a wider scope from that to grow their strength, you get more from that than trying to focus on any sort of weakness that there may be. Yeah, you touch on them, but that's not the focus of attention anymore. The focus on attention is on building strengths and how can we build that even stronger and wider.
That is such a. I'm glad and I've read that numerous times, and it's something for those. I'm not a big baseball fan, but I know who won the home run derby. It was Cal Raleigh, and they call him the Big Dumper, right? He's
Yeah,
just if you waste all this guy can hit home runs and swing and bat a ball great. If you waste all your time trying to work on making him a pitcher,
right.
which is probably a weakness of his, I don't know him well enough,
You're
and
right.
I'm
Sure.
making assumptions here.
Right, right, right.
You're doing the wrong thing.
That's
And
right.
that's really what we're getting at. When people have strengths, exploit those
That
strengths.
exactly.
Right? You don't want to, if they're bad at one thing but good at 10, or
Yep.
you don't want to you don't want to bring that bad, probably don't want to bring that, waste a lot of time and effort on that one bad thing.
Yeah. Circle around the passion. That's where you're going to get the return.
It's huge because, yeah, people don't like doing something, but that doesn't mean they don't have to do it because in a lab
That's right. You
environment,
still, that's right.
yeah,
You still have to do those things and you touch on them, but don't spend 90% of the time on them like we have in the past.
I mean, it's caring for your team too and having the
Yeah.
right people. I mean, I laugh at this. People know it's like CEO of the company and I plunged the toilet the other day. I mean, it's what, hey,
There you go. Roll up your sleeves.
it is a roll up your sleeves. It's like,
Yep.
okay, like,
That's right.
we could call the plumbing company, but I'm like, you know what? I'll just do it. It's
Right.
like, who cares? You just, there's nothing, there's things you don't want. There's things both of us obviously probably don't want to do in organizations. And there's things as you get older, there's a, one of the authors I like, Scott Galloway, always says, when you're younger, work your butt off, learn as much as you possibly can all the time. Just if you want to pull a 16-hour shift, do it. But then what's funny about him is what he says. He's like, do it when you're younger, because when you're 50, that shit'll
Yeah,
kill you if
right.
you pull the if you
So,
pull
so
the
Henry,
16-20 hour shift.
when you were talking about plunging, that brought up an interesting story of mine when I was getting my master's degree. Our professor brought in a speaker, a guest speaker, and it was a director of Delta Airlines, and
Okay.
he told us how he got his career going, and he was not college educated, but he wanted to get a nice job, and he walked into a hiring manager's office one time without a resume or a cover letter or anything, and said, "Just give me a chance. I'll work for free for the first 3 months or whatever. See what I do." And then in one of those, within that 90 days, they had a Delta plane that was at risk of not taking off at all, and that was because of a backed up toilet, and nobody wanted to take care of it.
Yep.
And so he raised his hand and says, "What? There, this is the thing keeping this plane from flying? Give me that plunger. I'll take care of it." And he went in there and took care of it, and that plane made it on time. And he got promoted on the spot. And then that's how he rose through the ranks to become a director at Delta Airlines, was by doing the things that needed to be done despite the job description.
Do what's right when no one is watching. Well, people are watching there, but it is part of the thing of always. It's just the team, just supporting the team. We all win when we win. We all win together. If someone's not or plunging that toilet, how many? What 160 people aren't getting to their destination, and then it's
Right.
more than that. Then it backlogs the
Yes.
next leg of the flight
That's
and the
right.
next one, and you don't see that. And in a cow lab, just the things that we do when you're not doing the right more of the right things and you're not stepping up, your equipment's the same way. It might be a pain in the ass for you to calibrate this customer equipment that the customer didn't want to buy the easier thing to calibrate, or they have this. But if you don't understand their critical needs and everything else, and you let that sit on the shelf or do that, that's time. You have no idea the repercussions that are happening to the organization, to their organization, to everybody else in that scenario. And that's I'm saying that vaguely, but there's all, as Caltex, and we've both done it, there are some instruments that you just don't love calibrating, right? You
Right.
have yours, I have mine.
Yeah. One of the techniques I used when I was in the Marine Cow Lab, we had items on the shelf awaiting work or repair that were dogs, and the
Yep.
dog list grows. And I came up with this concept to say, and I'm going to create a top 10 list. And if anyone repairs one of those top 10 items, they get a 4-day weekend. You know how quick I got those top 10 dogs out of the lab?
Immediately.
Marines love 4-day weekends. I mean, I had guys that worked, the whole week, 12 hours on, 12 hours off to fix a dog so they could have a 4-day weekend.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got to
And they
come up
could,
with techniques like that. So,
but they could be, that could be mission critical stuff too.
correct.
Yeah. And the counter to that is when people are thinking that it's called punish by rewards. Well, I learned
Mm,
the hard way. One time we had, this is probably 10 years ago, we had a day where we had shipped the most instruments we ever shipped out. So we said, this is great. We're going to praise people. We're going to reward. We're going to give them a gift card. So about 4 days later, we beat that record. And I'm like, wait a minute. This thing, it's taken us how many years to get this
mhm.
super high record? Here they
Right.
held stuff for a couple days so they yeah.
Sure,
So you
sure.
have to
Be
balance
careful on
this
that.
with
Yep.
team. Yeah, and I wanted to say that because you have to balance it with culture and understanding. So yeah, praise the positive, but you know, punish by rewards is a thing. Is if you're rewarding everything, then you get into that
Yeah.
you can get yourself into the system. The big thing is work on your culture, work on the people, work on provide the work environment, make it safe, make sure they
Mhm.
have the power to do what they need, make sure their leaders are giving them the whys, and the corporate message and all the other messages tells them, why do we do things, why are we showing up for work, why is this important. A lot of times in our organization too, things hit the lab, and a technician might say, um, might not understand why this one customer might get preferential treatment, right, pushed above the line. But the why that doesn't come with it is because sales talk to them and they have like a outage planned or something and someone forgot to schedule it, and you're basically saying, look, like, uh, shit happens, right? We all make mistakes. Like as a company, we'll make sure we, get this done for you quickly, so you can get on with your day, and it's providing that positive customer experience. Now you can't do it all the time because everybody would always have an error and jump to the front of the line, but that with your PERT, managing through the PERT formula and
Yeah.
other stuff that Greg trains. But you should have the ability, if you're managing, to manage your workflow to slide in those rush scenarios or those special favors or whatever comes in, in play. There's a lot there. What have you found over the years that works best for just managing workflow?
Well, we had a first in, first out philosophy, first of all, which is kind of standard.
Yeah.
And then we had metrics around that we reported on weekly and monthly to share with the team how well we're doing in these workflows. Where's the bottleneck and why? And I had metrics that probably I had 160 data elements in my monthly metric sheet that I put out. And one of the concepts of metrics that I share in the class is the concept of changing a 2D metric to a 3D metric. And the idea is just take a overdue a backlog of cows. It's usually just one snapshot. How many backlog items do we have at the end of the month? Boom. Well, I use aging on that. How
Yep.
many of those are older than 2 weeks? How many of those backlog have been sitting in the lab for over 30 days? How many have been sitting over 60 days? And let me tell you, that tells a story.
Yep.
The one snapshot number of 30 backlog could be a different story if your aging has been growing or all of a sudden scales up. And so that's where I focus the attention with my managers in the different sections and say, hey, watch that aging, and you need to investigate why things are over 30 sitting in the lab.
Mm,
Something's wrong there. And so if you don't see that early enough, it gets out of hand. So that's
yep.
that's one of the things that the metrics can help with is early indicators of
Yeah, to see where things are and what's been sitting for how long it's been
that's
sitting.
exactly right. So aging metrics, I think, is very important that
Hmm.
people probably don't do often enough.
Yeah, because a lot of people do first in, first out.
That's
Right.
right.
And then they'll suspend things, and then they'll wait. There'll be a wait for customers, and then they'll keep going first in, first out. And um, but there's an interesting theory on it's more of a drum buffer roll theory, that if you're doing some of the setup reductions and timings, that may just maybe that, like instruments, if you're calibrating X widget over here and you have three of them, the first one takes you 45 minutes, the second one takes you 20 minutes, that maybe two and three
Oh
you
yeah.
group them together.
That's part of the
Yeah.
first in, first out mentality is, the first one, are there other like items
Okay.
that's
Okay.
sitting in the
Yeah.
lab too, and build them in, bring them forward with that first one. So yeah, you definitely want to group as part of that first in, first out for sure.
I like that. It's always nice when you say, oh, we have for us, a 7 to 10 day lead time, and we're like 90 some, we're high 90s in meeting it. Of
Yeah,
course, that data does not include suspended items and does not include non-working items. Non-working numbers take a little bit longer. And suspended items are often suspended because someone forgot a cable or did something that we're waiting on parts. So it's
sure.
usually not of our doing that they're suspended. But yeah, that's it's always nice to say, oh my gosh, I got it back in, instead of waiting 7 to 10 days, I got something back in 3 to 4. It's
Yeah,
that goes with the promote the positive customer experience and raise the standard. But the counter argument is you're taking 20 minutes, even though it's saving you 25 minutes, you're taking that 20 minutes that to do that other one away from somebody else's that was in the queue too. So there's people balance. What I'm saying is people will balance things, whatever works in whatever way makes sense for them. They have to run their labs and their instrumentation and whatever method that they want to do and whatever makes the best business and overall sense to them, I
Yeah.
would say.
Hmm.
So the other things that you would have for like first time leaders, someone comes in, what do you recommend? uh, I come in, I just got a job. I'm managing, five. Let's give it a big job. I got a promotion. I'm managing five different. A company's hired me, and I'm managing five different locations, and I'm quality manager.
Hmm.
I know what I would do. What would you tell people that they should be doing?
Well, that's a good question. One of the things that academics uh, show is the idea of a situational leadership grid of a life flow of people's experience, that you don't lead everyone the same way. Everyone's in different quadrant of their expertise, and that could be task expertise bucket. It could be their particular area bucket, or it could be project related, or it could be entirely. There's different aspects of that situational grid. And so what you're referring to is someone who'd be on the early part of that grid development, where you're going to be spending more time with them than you
Right.
would other people on your staff. So you'd be spending more time meeting with them and being more detailed on expectations, and kind of helping them along and giving them an opportunity to grow. Uh, and I guess it would just be more hands-on meeting with them, and having them report to you how things are going and where they might need some assistance, and know that you're available to help them in that and give
Hmm.
them feedback. Um, I didn't have I didn't have many of those who were in the first quadrant of their it was their first time leading something. For the most point, it was people were a little bit more experienced in that. So I'm
Yeah.
not as knowledgeable about
It's
all the
tough.
different.
No, I don't blame you there, Walter. It's tough. The first time leaders is really tough. The only thing
Yeah.
I can say, there's books out there, and books are not a substitute, but this successful managers handbook, this thing has, I mean, we could sit here and we'd read it together and we'd probably be shaking our heads up and down the whole increased cultural competence. I'm just coming
Yeah.
to some pages on uh, promote teamwork. That's a whole chapter on that. Let's see if I start going on, find some other stuff in here. But anything in here is pretty much good. Manage and improve processes, like just things about um, doing all of this. Action steps, when, who's going to do it, the cost involved, your tracking metric, um, all this. Build realistic plans. That's something that that's funny. I stumbled upon that page, build realistic plans. That's I find even us, like you get and I'm sure IndieSoft and everybody, you try to build something realistic. You think in as a group, you say, yeah, we can do this in this time frame, and how often does it happen in that time frame?
Correct. And that's
Yeah,
why one of the four important pillars of running a organization is planning.
right.
Is to do that pre-planning, both strategic and having objectives, and having a 1 year plan, 3 year plan, roll that out and have alignment, and then also the financial management aspect of that,
Yep.
capital planning, annual operating plan, expense reporting, all
Mm-hmm.
that goes into that bucket of planning. And so yeah, we share a lot of templates. SWOT analysis, for example,
Oh yeah, strength, weakness,
is
opportunity,
yeah,
threat. Yep,
is
yep,
an
yep.
outstanding way to
Mm-hmm.
get a current state map of where you sit, and then come out of that with a 3 year plan on how to get to where you want to go.
And know your 3 year plan's probably going to be revised several times.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. And that's why part of the training I share with them is the 1 year is the one you want to focus on the details. The two
Yep.
year and 3 year are just there as holding positions, and
Hmm.
but you know that they're out there, and it gives motivation to the workforce knowing that, oh, this is where we're going to be heading if we execute on these 1 year activities.
Yeah, and then you learn from them because like for us, at least, sometimes you think something's going to take 3 months. You do all your planning. It goes and surprisingly, it takes you four. Maybe you consider it a win, right? Um, it went a month over. Maybe you don't consider it a win. Maybe it takes a year. Well, if it takes a year, that's a your estimate. Everything has some errors with it, and
Oh,
things
sure.
happen. People get sick and all this, and building. And I love the PERT formula that you and Greg discuss, and people have to go look up the PERT. But this is why you build in buffers. You build in all this everything else.
Yep.
You do, and the more you do all of this stuff. The other thing I did want to say on this, but yeah, if you're learning a lot of people debrief situations, and I was fortunate I could attend several seminars on this. But the one person that I attended was a retired F-16 pilot, and his name was Robert Cujo. They called him Cujo, but his thing was debrief to win. So um, what organizations tend to do is they have that let's debrief when something doesn't go right, but they don't
Mm-hmm.
get in the mindset or the mantra on, hey, we just kicked freaking butt over here. Well, what do? We want to replicate more of that. Like let's if you but it goes with praising people and doing the other stuff. If you constantly are looking at what you're doing right and you're the hitter, you keep doing more of those right things, you have less headaches and less fires and all that. But I think
Yeah.
sometimes we get that wrong, is we look at failure as something that's horrible. Well, it's not. I just wrote an article on this. Fail fast, fail cheap, fail often, and it's not that bad. We all fail all the freaking time. It's like I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure we could go back on our conversation and maybe I failed 3 or 4 times
Right.
muffling words or something,
Right. Right. Yes.
right? Oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. But if you make those notes and you next time you're better, you're going along with improvements. So I can't say too much more. What else do we have here? Communication. I want to touch with you on that because it's not what you say, it's what people hear
Yeah. Or see.
or see.
See by
Oh yeah,
your
see is huge.
actions. See by
Right,
your actions. Right.
right.
So yeah, one of the things we talk about is setting the example or be the example if you're in a leadership position, to be true to what you're trying to do on paper and in execution. Um, so yeah, communication. One of the things I share with the young leaders is not just communicate, over communicate.
Yes.
I had in the 21 years at Medtronic, I had bi-monthly department meetings on schedule for those 20 years and did not miss or slip too many of those bi-monthly, every 2 month department 1 hour, 2 hour meetings. Uh, I think that's, and the staff meetings weekly on Tuesdays. And then walking around and meeting with your distant teams if they're off site and having lunch with them or breakfast with them is communicate, over communicate, sending emails out notifying the department what's going on. I used to always try to, if I came across a nice leadership tidbit, I'd send it out to the department and say, hey, I just came across this article or whatever, and I found this fascinating. Just thought I'd share it with you. That sort of thing. Um, yeah,
Yeah. Speak
over
English.
communicate.
Or speak whatever language. Over communicate, simplify, speak whatever language. Well,
Yeah,
it's know your audience. And where I wanted to say that is because in metrology, specifically in our lab environment, there's jargon that we say that no one else has the faintest clue what it means. And
right.
if they don't know, if you're start talking PFAs, PFRs, and you're running around, running your mouth,
Hmm.
blah, 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 and they have no idea, they're lost. They might nod their head with you and say, yeah, I get it. And, and say, okay, well, what did you get? We want to improve our PFAs. If they have no idea what that means,
Yeah,
It
that's
goes. I've looked up the shuttle. Remember this? Where the tile? There's a PowerPoint slide. The
yeah,
space shuttle, Columbia.
yep.
Um,
SOFA.
what's that?
SOFA was one of the acronyms I was using there. Significant orbital
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
failing something or another.
Yeah.
Yes, I know exactly what PowerPoint you're talking about because Edward Tufte, a professor of data analysis, was brought in to testify about that poor PowerPoint presentation and how it led to a poor decision on to fly or continue flying and not save the orbiter.
And it costs lives. Yeah, its
Yes.
test data indicates that foam will not significantly penetrate the RCC, reinforced carbon. And yeah, you're right. It just, I remember this slide.
Yeah.
I think it's from, there's a book, Why Business People Speak Like Idiots. And it's all that stuff is in there. Like we're assuming as the expert engineers or whomever were probably thought they were doing a good job in portraying this information and the significant just using a word like significant and impact analysis, conservatism for tile damage. What
Yes.
is conservatism for
Yeah.
tile damage? But the point is, when we talk about that, when we speak or I speak to you, it's perfectly clear what I'm telling you. Now, you may
Yeah.
not be thinking I'm being perfectly clear when I'm speaking. So
Yeah.
recapping the discussion and knowing that and trying to simplify it is some I've learned that over the years. Still not awesome at it because I don't have people do it all the time. I wish I did. There's things that you go around and you're like, huh. Yeah, everybody in the room, I thought I was saying we want red banners and everybody in the room heard orange and
Yeah, and that's where training comes into play, right? Is to make sure that we're training our workforce to understand what is the best practice in the industry and
Mhm.
about those words, what's behind a PFA, PFR, and what does that mean? What's uncertainty analysis? Training can play a role in helping
Oh
educate
yeah.
your workforce on what's out there. And that's why I made it a big point to send people to the annual NCS LI conference as much as I could to one, have them learn something, but two, expose them to the whole organization that's out there that can help them in years to come learning the continuing trend of what's going on in the field of metrology.
And the networking aspect, right?
Absolutely.
If you meet people, if you I've met so many people through NCSLI and everyone else, and we've met through colleagues and everything else.
Yeah.
But you could call me anytime, LinkedIn
Yep.
message me. I feel I could message you as well. Hey Walter, found this article on
Yeah.
leadership. Have you had anything? You're likely going to answer me. But if you establish that network and it just makes everybody better. Or you can tell people, hey, where to go. Hey, let me dig up this old paper that you and I
Yeah.
are probably hoarders. We don't know each other well enough,
Yeah,
but
I'm a hoarder.
yeah,
I'm a knowledge hoarder.
we're data hoarders. I mean, I have like
Yep.
20 gigabytes of educational stuff that I'll never read, but I've
Yep.
downloaded it. So the other day I caught myself. There's for the people online to switch gears, there's something called the Internet Archive, um, that's online, that like old magazines and stuff. There's leadership
Mm.
stuff there. They treat it like an almost like a library, and people have uploaded stuff that's lost or might be lost forever. There's things like, I don't know if this is on here. This is Leader to Leader magazine. I used to get it. I don't even know if it's in print anymore. But you can go on there and get some of these uh, older articles. Harvard
Hmm.
Business Review has a
Yeah.
ton of stuff. There's a
The
lot
best.
on, yeah, leadership, but this is free. There are free sites out there. And what I wanted to say, and the internet, I mean, there's stuff on there from Grateful Dead archives, which I listen to all the time, to all kinds of articles. But we were looking at old computer magazines. Dilip and I were looking at them together. We
Yeah.
talk to each other weekly, and we were laughing. Like this Byte magazine was such a huge
Yeah.
magazine that
It
stopped
was.
in the 89. All the issues are on there, so you can look at.
Oh,
And
wow, that's pretty
yeah, and
cool.
they yeah, so they used to explain this stuff, but it's all out there. Like the networking, to try to come full circle on this, the networking, NCSLI getting together, um, LinkedIn's a good place if you're just on some social media to then to start to follow. Get in touch with you, Walter Nowocin at IndySoft. Just if you can't spell Walter's name, just type in IndySoft and then type Walter under the company. He'll come up. I am so excited for your. I'm upset that it's going to be so long till January, till your articles start coming out. But I
Yeah,
am so excited for your leadership gold articles.
cool.
They are just, people need this, and if they're not, the other piece is if they're not in a leadership position, they should still be reading it.
Yeah, they'll be a leader someday. I
Yeah,
hope.
someday. Well, you may have kids someday. You may get married someday.
Sure,
You
sure.
you have coworkers someday that you're going to have to talk to. These things are not just for leaders. They're life.
Yeah,
A lot of times it's life lessons, right? Where we can be better people. And the psychology of all of it is such. I mean, sometimes I come home and the everything, you try to show up and be the most positive person at work, and then around your family, you're kind of grumpy. And you shouldn't, that's not the greatest position to be in,
yeah,
right? But those articles and some of the stuff that you learned, there's tips on how to be better, how to be more in the moment, how to do other things. So how to work on yourself. You can work on everything. None of us are, I mean, we might not all be the home run hitters or play Major League Baseball or anything, but we can certainly get better if we want to.
that's for sure. Hone to saw. Continue to improve every touch point.
Yeah, that's number 7. So
All right.
that was number 7. The last one
The
is
last
take
one.
take the break. And the other piece I can't stress enough. If you think you have that fully functional running organization, and you're not the one in control or the one that's pitch something to your boss, pitch something to your team. Next time you go, take a vacation and see what happens without you. Right? Get people ready so you can leave without being there.
There you go.
So, and if the world doesn't collapse or the business doesn't burn down or whatever implode, you've done a good job. And if problems occur and happen, now you have stuff to fix and be better. So anyway, it's a positive. unless it blows up. But if your job's that critical, then
Yeah,
maybe
no.
Walter and I's advice
The old
get
hand in a bucket of water. The water will fill your hand when you take it out. So
all right, Walter. Well, hey, thank you. Do you have anything else to besides your leadership goal? What's some training courses at IndySoft? Watch for them.
yeah, the next 2-day lab manager workshop will be in Charleston, South Carolina. We're trying to schedule it for like the third, fourth week in October. So there'll be some marketing information that comes out on that as we're getting closer to it. So
And
keep an
look for
eye.
that. And you and that new up and comer, that Greg Senker up and comer guy with uncertainty is going to be there. Is he
He's
doing?
he's we're breaking him apart. I think we're scheduling his in the first quarter of 2026
Oh, cool.
because
Yeah.
we're aligning that with the release of potentially a new release of the IndySoft software that will have a complete uncertainty management aspect to it. So we're aligning those two dates together so Greg could really amplify that
Oh,
training.
cool. Yeah, I hear good things about him. I hear he's got a real future in
I
this
think he's
field.
got a
So
future. I think the young man's got a bright future.
hopefully he'll listen and get to that point and have a laugh. So,
Right.
all right. Thank you so much, Walter,
Thanks,
for
Henry. You do a
everything.
great job for the industry at Morehouse with your force training, which is much needed, and then these podcasts. Thanks, Henry. It's a
Yeah, thank
pleasure
you,
working
Walter.
with you.
Pleasure.